Time check for you, 12 hours 2. My name is Amrita Koshal, and it is now time for your main newscast in detail. Kroll given $6 billion but signs $14 billion in contracts. Opposition demands answers in National Assembly for source of $8 billion overspending. The CHNPA, under the auspices of Substantive Minister Colin Kroll, was this year allocated some $6 billion for capital expenditure for spending this year. That budget agency, however, has already signed some $14 billion in contracts for road and other projects traditionally not undertaken under this ministry's portfolio. The overspending by some $8 billion undertaken by the government agency has not escaped the attention of the political opposition, and as such the matter will be raised during the next sitting of the National Assembly. That sitting of the National Assembly has been designated a private member sitting, meaning the business of the opposition is prioritized, an occasion that obtains every 4 sittings of the House. To this end, Annette Ferguson, the former substantive minister under the coalition administration, now shadowing Minister Kroll, will be using the opportunity to grill him on the source of the funding for the contracts signed. PPP, APNU AFC, guilty of hundreds of millions in overpayments, also failed to collect items paid for with tax dollars, AG report finds. The report of the Auditor General on the public accounts of Guyana, taking stock of the accounts of ministries, government departments, and regions for the fiscal year ended 31st of December 2020, will on Monday be made public. Monday will see the first sitting of the National Assembly since coming out of recess, which began in August last. We have learned that when the report is made public, it is expected to document the overpayment by both the PPPC and former APNU AFC administrations during the course of that year to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Additionally, among the more pressing concerns raised by the Auditor General in his 2020 report is the fact that during the course of the year, several $100 million had been spent on various items that had not been delivered to the audited agency at the time of the audit. 18 contractors bid lower than government engineers' $85 million for Ogle Fire Station. 18 of the 21 contractors who submitted bids for the construction of the Ogle Fire Station tendered lower than the government engineer's estimate of $85 million. The project is being undertaken by the Ministry of Home Affairs. The engineer is a state employee, and questions have been raised about the glaring variance in his cost and that of 18 of the contractors, many of whom have years of experience in building construction. It is believed at this critical stage of public projects, millions are usually stolen through corrupt award of the contracts. We reached out to Home Affairs Minister Robeson Ben for the name of the engineer attached to his office, but he declined to disclose the same. The 18 contractors who bid less than the engineer's estimated cost submitted prices ranging from $63 million to $84 million. We now tell you that EPA waives EIA requirement for hazardous waste treatment facility at Houston. The Environmental Protection Agency has waived an environmental impact assessment for the hazardous waste treatment facility at Houston East Bank, Demerara, even though the operator, Tiger Rentals Guyana Inc., has its plant within range of residential properties and even schools. In confirming the suspicions of environmentalist Simone Mangle-Joly, the executive director of EPA, Mr. Kemraj Parshram, explained that while an EIA was not required, an environmental management plan was submitted to the regulator. Mangle-Joly recently highlighted her concerns over the fact that ExxonMobil's 4th project, the Yellowtail Development Environmental Impact Assessment, does not say how much toxic waste will be coming to shore or its potential impacts. She previously noted that the Environmental Protection Act clearly states that an EIA must address the physical characteristics of the whole project and land use requirements, and that the Yellowtail assessment conducted by consulting firm Environmental Resources Management fails to do this as it does not adequately account for the waste brought on shore. Guyanese businesses less competitive than Caribbean counterparts, says President Ali. President Ali on Monday stated that Guyanese businesses are less competitive than their Caribbean and Latin American counterparts. He made this statement during his keynote address at a Harvard Business Faculty workshop. Ali first explained to the forum that Guyana has had major hydrocarbon deposits discoveries and stated that with the country's newfound oil wealth, Guyana is now poised to become one of the wealthiest countries in the hemisphere. Some estimates suggest that GDP may increase by 300 to 1,000% in coming years, the president noted. He then shared that his government has plans to deploy the gains from exploiting the country's hydrocarbons deposits into initiatives aimed at expanding the country's economy and competitiveness. However, President Ali detailed that currently the productivity of Guyana's private sector is below the other counterparts in the hemisphere. Time check for you, 12 hours 8. We will return with more news shortly after the break.
Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM.
My name is Amrita Koshal, and we return with your main newscast in detail. EPA can now access satellite images of offshore flaring, says Parsram. Acutely aware of the harmful environmental implications associated with flaring, head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Kamraj Parsram, has assured that steps have been taken to increase the agency's surveillance capacity of operations aboard the Liza FPSO. At the moment, Parsram shared that detailed records on flaring are provided to the agency by ExxonMobil's subsidiary and operator of the Stabroek Block, ESSO. Parsram added that the agency hired a geographical information systems specialist and acquired satellite image capability to access real-time data. He added in this regard that the agency makes use of data from SkyTruth, a non-profit environmental watchdog that uses satellite imagery and remote sensing data to identify and monitor threats to the planet's natural resources. Nurses screening officer charged for selling COVID-19 vaccination booklets placed on $150,000 bail each. 2 nurses and a screening officer of the Ministry of Health were on Tuesday charged for selling fake COVID-19 vaccination cards days after they were busted in separate police sting operations on the East Coast and East Bank, Demerara. Police said that 32-year-old Andel Valentine of La Parfait Harmony, West Bank, Demerara, and 29-year-old Tanika Pollard of Golden Grove, East Bank, Demerara, along with 21-year-old Olivia Bonus, all appeared at the Diamond Magistrates Court before Magistrate Judy Latchman on charges of forgery of document with intent to defraud. They were not required to plead and were placed on $150,000 bail each. The matter was adjourned until Thursday, January 20th, 2022. In other news, we now tell you, GCOM deliberations on new CEO deferred to Friday. The 7-member commission of GCOM has deferred deliberations on the appointment of a new chief elections officer to Friday. A meeting was scheduled on Tuesday to discuss the interviews conducted with the 2 candidates vying for the post. However, we were told that the matter came up but was not discussed at length. GCOM has been without a CEO since August after the commission took a decision to dismiss Keith Lowenfield. At present, GCOM has to consider between two candidates who made the final cut to be interviewed for the post: former DCEO Vishnu Prasad and a former elections officer of Jamaica, Leslie Harrow. Based on advertisements, GCOM requires the CEO to be examined and approved by members of the commission. 23-year-old nabbed for goat napping, animals found in car trunk. A 23-year-old man was taken into police custody earlier this morning after he was found with two suspected stolen goats in the trunk of his car. According to police, the suspect was nabbed around 3:30 hours this morning at Liverpool Village, Quarantine, Berbice. Kaieteur Radio was told that ranks were on patrol duty in the vicinity of Liverpool Village when they observed and intercepted motorcar HB7127. A search of the vehicle led police to two female goats, which were found in the trunk of the said vehicle. The 23-year-old driver told police that he was hired by a male to transport the animals from the number 35 village. When his story could not have been substantiated, he was arrested and escorted to the Wim police station, where the goats were lodged to be claimed. Police investigations are ongoing. It is now time for your COVID-19 update. The Ministry of Health on Tuesday reported that a 69-year-old woman from Region 10 who contracted COVID-19 has died. As a result, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 1,009. 44 new cases, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 38,261. 16 patients are admitted into the ICU, 50 persons in institutional isolation, 867 in home isolation, and 4 in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 36,319 persons have recovered from the virus. We now turn your attention to page 7 of the Kaieteur News, dedicated to being blunt. Exxon is rushing ahead without government approval with an FPSO for the fourth project. It is the handshake dealings that it has with the PPP government. It is called governance between conspirators with a wink and a nod. What is a handshake between Exxon and PPP leaders is not good for Guyanese. My name is Amrita Koshal, and this was your main newscast in detail.